Hi everyone, it is Marianne from Yarnwork Studio, and I know it has been a while since we've done an update on my Fleece to Sweater series. I apologize, I'm a little under the weather, which is why it's been taking a while, but I did promise in this series that I would show a little bit of spinning, because usually I'm more doing blending and prep. But here we are. It's very early in the morning. I'm trying to get some spinning time in before the household is up and going. But this is my Louet S50. If someone can tell me how to pronounce Louet differently, I will. I've just never heard it said out loud before. And again, this is the custom blend that I've put together. You can go and see the whole playlist of this series, but the idea is I'm going straight from washed fleece from a bunch of different sources, creating my own blend on the drum carder and spinning it up, and then it actually has turned into me kind of designing my own sweater based on a vision. We'll see how that goes and whether or not I need to rip that out, but the last couple videos we're talking more about that pattern. So I do have down here one full 100-gram bobbin of singles, and this is the second one. Once I finish this little bun here, I will have 50 grams on here, and then I'm probably going to apply them so that I end up with 50 grams from here. I'll take 50 off there and end up with 100 grams total. And then I'll spin the rest of this 100 grams, so there'll be 50 left, and do a second one. But I'm really anxious to actually cast on and start knitting because I've been really in a knitting phase right now. So I am doing this spin long draw as much as I can to keep it really woolen as a spin. And again, this is by no means going to be a spinning tutorial, but whenever I join, again, I'm not a beginner spinner, but I'm not an advanced spinner, that's for sure. So whenever I join, I usually keep it pretty worsted, where I'm sort of using my fingers to compress the air out of it. What I have found with this one that I think I talked about in one of the previous videos is, as I'm spinning, I find the short staple length, which is how long the hairs are, of the alpaca to be challenging. Every so often I get a really thin area and I try to add a little bit more to it, even though I find when I do long draw, which is this method of kind of pulling back without really any resistance from my hand or anything, when I do long draw, I do find it surprisingly thin and surprisingly strong given its thinness. But this is exactly how I spun all the samples, so if you want to go back to previous videos, I have tons and tons of samples. But the idea of long draw, which took me a while to sort of get used to, is I'm minimally using this finger to kind of add a bit of tension, but you're pulling backwards on the fiber and you're letting the twist get right into sort of the meat of the fiber there. And that is creating this nice airy tube that, again, like I said, is surprisingly strong. And it makes it, the things I love about it, first of all, I find my yardage can really stretch because the yarn itself, the singles aren't as dense. So you get more yardage for the same amount of fiber. And I find it much quicker. And it's because it can kind of go a little, you get in a flow and you go a lot more sort of naturally than you would if you were doing like a short forward draft where you're constantly kind of pulling the fiber out of the working fiber here. And again, because the sweater, the swatches, it's got a little bit of sort of rusticness to it. This is a blend that has some alpaca, some merino, some CBM. What else did I put in it? I can't even remember at this point. I think a couple different types of merino, different colors slightly to give it this really sort of really soft neutral. So the thing I love about long draw is that it's faster, which I think is important because I have 700 grams that I plan to spin up of this and then ply in a 2-ply. I decided I liked the 2-ply vibe better. So when I have 700 grams, that means I've got to do this bobbin times 7, which is a lot. You can see sort of the nice halo. Hopefully it's all showing up here. And I post a lot of stories on my Insta as well, so if you want to go over there to see those as we go. But it's got like a nice oatmeal-y type color. And the singles are pretty consistent, and you can do like a ply back test where you then just see, I don't know if it's better to have light or dark behind it. You then see what it's going to look like kind of when it's plied together. So the vision for this cardigan is really open top, and then a couple big buttons at the bottom to close it, but leaving sort of a lot open so that you can really see what's underneath. It's not meant to be snugly cuddly up so much as something that's kind of light and easy to toss on over t-shirts or something, because I always run hot. With a raglan sleeve, and I did a whole bunch of math in my video a couple back about how I arrived at what I decided for what I'm going to try first. So I'm really excited to actually get some skeins finished so that I can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. I'm going to finish this. You can see I'm about halfway done that bun. Finish this, and then I'm going to come back when I'm ready to ply and show you a little bit of plying. One thing I did realize when I was plying, and maybe I'll just show this whip I've got over here. This is a whip. This is an Inclinations, oh, that's the back of it. Doesn't matter though. Inclinations shawl by Andrea Mowry, and this is with some handspun. And one thing I noticed is while I was plying this, I was not plying it tight, and it really shows up with like every so often little like lumpy bump area. You can see a bunch of them here. And also I didn't put a very high twist on the ply, so when we get into these sort of barber pole sections, I really feel like I wish it was a tighter ply. So I'm going to try to take that forward with me. This is why it's so important to like actually knit or crochet from your handspun so that you can see how it works up and how that might influence how you spin in the future. That doesn't matter so much for, oh my gosh, I found an error. I found an error live. That'll be my fairy stitch. Or I'll go back and fix it. I don't think that'd be too bad to go back and fix. Anyways, my train of thought. Oh, this is a solid color piece. Oops. So I don't think that the plying tighter will necessarily impact it, because I do want it to have a rustic feel. But when I'm doing other color pieces, I do feel like when I'm plying, I feel like I'm so excited to ply that I forget to take the time to actually like get that density really thick. But anyways, I'm going to come back. I'm going to finish this, come back. We'll do a bit of plying together. When I finish plying it, then the next steps are to wash it and set it. And then once it's dry, I can actually start casting on for this cardigan, and we'll see how that portion of the experiment will go. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, so I'm back. I've got my 2 bobbins. Again, this one has 100 grams of fiber. This one has 50. So I'm going to ply until this one's empty, and that'll give me 50 from this, 50 from that, which is 100 grams total for my first skein. And then I'll leave 50 here so I can then spin another 50 grams of singles and end up with a second skein. But I'm so excited to get started and cast on the sweater and see what I think about it. So we're gonna just do this for now. I put my fresh bobbin on, which is my 3rd bobbin that came with this spinning wheel, which I did get secondhand off Facebook Marketplace, but it has been, I would say, and don't tell my other wheels this, my favorite. It's my favorite, mainly because it's very portable without needing cords and stuff like that. So love it. And yes, I've got my bobbin. I've got it already strung up. I've got a really long leader line on this one, but that's no problem. And then I've got my 2 strands from my singles. And then I got to remember, hardest part, make sure you go counterclockwise. So I'm just going to let it feed in my leader line till we're near the end here. Always fascinated watching other people's processes and stuff. Again, I am not an advanced spinner, so if you're watching this to learn, I don't recommend it. But if you want a little bit of advice here and there, maybe I can give it in my journey. So I do have my samples plied as well. They're just not right beside me. But this one is pretty much a simple, like I said, there's not color work here, so I'm not worried about the aesthetics of the ply. This is more just about being consistent. So what I like to do is get into a rhythm of like, how many pumps on my treadle am I doing before I sort of feed the yarn through? Because the twist is building up in front of these fingers up here. But then even when I go and feed it in, there's still some extra twist getting put in there. So I'm going to stop and check on that kind of rhythm. Again, I've seen people like JK Fiber Arts do like a ply back test, even though they're already plying, just to see if there's a big loop here or a small loop. Loops mean that it's a looser ply. I think I'm going to try to tighten it up just a little bit. But again, this is a rustic finish look. I wish I had the swatch with me here. I don't. It's down by my drum carder. So I'm just going to speed up my treadle a little bit. So if we kind of get into rhythm, and it's hard to hear because I've got my AirPods in, so you probably can't hear the treadle. It's kind of like this, where I'm going, I'll do one, let's do here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Something like that is the rhythm I'm working with right now. And it's feeling pretty good. It's definitely a very thin yarn. It's definitely a fingering weight. And I'm using slightly bigger needles than I normally would because I don't need this to be super dense. But if you go back, you can look at all the swatches. You can, see how the blends work up. You can see my mindset on what kind of sweater I want. And from here on out, so like I said, next step I'll wash and set this 100-gram skein once I'm finished plying, which will probably take me, I don't know, maybe an hour, something like that. Again, I try not to rush plying, but I obviously get really excited. And I think that's kind of normal, and so sometimes I feel like I do rush through it more than I should. So I'll do that, and then I'll be able to cast on for my actual sweater and see how I like it and see whether this is going to be a total design fail, because I am not a pattern designer. But I do like math, and I have constructed many garments at this point, so I feel like I can get there. I can figure it out, so we'll see. And then you may not see many in this series coming through just because it's going to be a lot of the same, right? It's going to be a lot of spinning these singles, plying them, setting them. So more of the series might be more around the actual whip work in progress of the cardigan. So I think that's it. I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of this process. Hope you're enjoying it. If there's any other aspects of it that you want to see along the way, make sure you drop it in the comments. I also do have a highlight on my Instagram with a lot of the stories from along the way. So if you want to see more sort of behind the scenes shots, that's where you can find them. All right. See you later, and hope you have a great day doing something crafty.